Hello class, welcome back to part 2 of the Drawing in Greenfoot tutorial by Mr. Owl. In the previous tutorial, we learned how to set up our image, how to tell Greenfoot it exists, what its initial state, how it's going to be constructed, and then how to send that information to another class of which it will become the image that then we'll be able to add into our world to see visually. A lot of steps to do something simple, but hopefully it's starting to make a little bit of sense to you, and in time it will become second nature, how it is that we constructed all these ideas. In this tutorial, we're going to jump into some of the specific details of how we create these different shapes and colors and how we use the methods that we have over here, pop up to the top in our Greenfoot image class, to be able to do all this functionality. So where should we begin? Let's begin with the text, hello world. Actually, before I dive in, I do want to note that you'll notice that we have a comment up here Greenfoot produced. I'm not going to be writing comments in as I go in this document just because it'll take up too much time. But you can refer to the project that I let you look at, that I send to you in your own files, that will have comments all through it to describe things in more detail on the page in front of you. So don't let me not including comments here. Let you build bad habits not to comment yourself. Just for now, to keep this video as short as possible, I'm not going to be commenting live on the screen. So, hello world. I want to be able to add text. And in programming, we call text a string. So I need to find somewhere that talks about strings. And I see that right about here we have a method called DrawString. This is going to draw text information into our Greenfoot image class. And we see what types of things this method needs sent to it. It needs a string or text, it needs a number, and it needs another number. The string is going to be the text that we see on the screen. The x and the y values are going to be the center point of where the text appears on the screen itself. So, whereabouts does this hello text appear on this project? Well, in your projects, you're going to have to kind of use your pre-drawings, your kind of plans to know roughly where you want it to show up on the grid. My grid is 600 by 400. Remember, it's positive right, positive down. And around here, I just know the number looking at my other document that I've already created in the past. So I know the fact that this is centered around 400, 200. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on this method. Now, one thing I have to keep in mind is that this method is a part of the Greenfoot image class. So I can't just access it by typing in DrawString. Oops, I went past it here a tiny bit. Here we go. By just typing in DrawString, that's not going to work. I actually have to access it through the class that created it. But we're going to do it in a slightly different way. I'm not going to access it through Greenfoot image like we might have done in the past just with the main class itself. I'm going to access it through the Greenfoot image that we've created because that's what's going to allow this to change my image. Let's just think about what I did here. My image is a Greenfoot image. It is a part of that class, so it has access to all of the Greenfoot image methods. DrawString is actually going to create text on the thing that accesses this method. I don't want the string to be drawn in some generic Greenfoot image class. I want it to be drawn specifically on my image object. So this is the way that we do this. The my image object, which is a Greenfoot image, is going to access the functionality of DrawString so that it has a string drawn on it. So back to the method, DrawString. If we look on our project over here, I have the text hello world. Now hello world is a very classic statement that's often being used in the first project that students learning code participate in. Normally, they have students create this code by doing something basic in the console, like system.out.println line, hello world, something a little bit more dry and less engaging than we're seeing here. We're going to learn about this kind of stuff later on, but for now we're going to keep it more visual and hopefully a bit more fun in that way. So we're kind of following the tradition in this sense, but in a slightly different way. So hello world, and we said the second number that we want to submit to this is our middle x value, and then the other information is the middle y value. Do note I added a space in here. These spaces aren't required. It comes down to kind of a personal preference of what looks nice to you. You can even add extra spaces if you feel like it It makes it visually appealing to you. Sometimes I like to squish it together just to keep my code nice and condensed, but spaces in there are okay. It won't change the functionality of the code at all. So on my image, it should draw the string hello world if everything has gone according to plan. Let's click over here and I see hello world has appeared as expected. There's a problem though. In the thing I'm trying to replicate, hello world is bold, italicized, and blue. So there's a lot of elements to this that I have to edit. Now, if we were in Microsoft Word, you could just highlight this, go up to the toolbar and do this. It already has a layout, a user interface to do all that changing. In Greenfoot, we have to tell it a bit more explicitly what's going on. Why don't we first deal with the color? Now, to set the color, over here we see that it's blue. I'm going to try and access the color blue. In Greenfoot, I have, if I scroll down here, a method in Greenfoot image called setColor. And it wants sent to it a color from the class color. All right, let's see what's going on here. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to say, in my image, I'm going to access the method to set the color. So I'm setting the color, but I still have to pass it some information. We're not quite done yet. There's an error. I haven't sent it the package that it needs. So what color am I going to send it? Let's jump up into our color class and see what kind of information we have here. We have a list of the main colors that are included in Greenfoot. We're going to do something a bit more customized with colors shortly, but for now, we're just going to go off the color blue. And here's how we type it in. I have to access the color through my color class because it's not located in my Greenfoot image class. And then when I access it, I'm going to tell it what color I want. These are static variables. They are permanent just the way they're written, but note they're all in caps. So I'm going to tell it that I want the color blue to be the color we're using. Set color just means kind of click it as if we were in Paint right now, it would be the same as going blue. That's the color I selected. That's what we just did in Greenfoot. So I've selected blue. Cool. Next, why don't we set the bold and italics for this, and it also has a different font. It might be hard to tell visually, but it does have a different font. So I'm going to go back into Greenfoot image, and I'm going to find our method for setting the font. Set font, and we need the class font. I'll come back here in a sec. So first, I'm going to tell my image to access the set font method, and then I need to send it information about font. Let's jump into our font class and see what type of information that we can set. Now, setting the font that I want to access, there's some different ways that I can do this. Now, I could send it some kind of a font method, but I want to be able to actually construct my own local version of a font that's custom to what it is that I want. So I actually need a bit more space here. I'm going to be creating a custom font to fit the scenario that I'm looking for. So how do I create a new object? First, I tell Greenfoot, what type of object do I want? I want it of class font. Then I'm going to give it a name. Let's just call it my font. Then I can actually, sometimes we do this on 2 different lines to keep things organized, but we can also do this on 1 line in a more condensed way as well. I'm going to say, what is my font? It's a new font. And then I need to tell it what constructor I'm accessing when I'm creating this font. Here's our options. I can create a sans serif font with a specified size and style, a sans serif font of a given size. I can create a font of a specified font name, or I can choose from any font that's on your computer, size and style, or I can just create a font from the font name and size, some different options. In this case, let's go for the most complicated one just to see how it works. We're going to choose a font. Oh, it's here it says it's missing all the different information it's expecting. So, first of all, I need the name of a font that I want to access. In this case, we're going to use a font called Garment. It's a font that's built into the computer. And next, we need something called a Boolean bold. This Boolean is a new term for us. Simply put, Boolean means true or false. If I put in true, it's going to make the text bold. If I put in false, it's going to make the text not bold. In this case, we want it bold, so I'm going to put in true. Next, Boolean for italic. Do I want it italicized or not? Let's have it italicized, true. And finally, the size of the text. Well, If I was creating this from scratch, I might play around with this number. For now, I'm just going to go with 18. So now I've created a new font with these parameters. It's been constructed to have these attributes. And now, when I'm setting my font, I can simply just set it to the font that I just created. So now my font is set to this. Let's see what it looks like. Hello world. Nice and bolded. Maybe this one over here wasn't bold. Doesn't matter. It's good to practice seeing what it looks like anyway. So hello world looks a lot more like what we originally created. We're going to move on from that for now. Let's see here. Where should we go next? Why don't we create our first shape? Now that we have our first string created in, let's take the sun and try to make this. So the sun is of a particular shape. I'm just going to make this all combined together. It's all organized in one section. I'm going to give myself some space to create the sun. Let's head back into Greenfoot image and see what kind of functionality we have to be able to create this shape. As I scroll through here, I notice I have draw oval right here, and fill oval. Two options for ovals. Why doesn't it say circle? Well, circle is just a very specific type of oval, so we don't need to have a whole new method just for that. We can create a circle just fine using the oval method, so there's no need to overcomplicate things. Now, here's the difference between what we mean when we say draw oval versus fill oval. Back here in Paint, I can select, if I head back, let's pop it open a bit bigger here. I can create an oval shape by clicking on it. When I create this shape, what I've done is the equivalent of drawing an oval. I've drawn the outline of the shape, but it's just the outline. If I were to fill the oval instead, it would have created, if it'll let me select it here, oh, clicking the wrong tool. It would have actually filled in that whole shape full of color. This first shape here is draw oval. This one here is fill oval. What this means is that we can actually create a different color for the border than we do for the inside by drawing the oval in one color and filling it in a different color. We'll talk about that soon. But there's that idea of the difference between draw and fill. And notice we have draw polygon, fill polygon, draw rectangle, fill rectangle, and so on. It's a couple different options depending on what we want our image to look like. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I notice that my sun is yellow. We want to switch up what color we select. Remember in Paint, we would go up here and just click on yellow. In Greenfoot, we have to tell it through text what it is that we want to do. To keep things simple, I'm just going to copy and paste setting the color. And in this case, all I have to do is change the color to the one that I want, yellow. Now Greenfoot has a limited number of preset colors. Let me just double check if yellow's in here, and here it is, yellow works. Pretty limited list. We're going to learn soon about how to create your own custom colors to have way more options than just this. But for now, we'll come back here. I'm going to jump back over into my methods for Greenfoot image, color yellow, and I want the sun is just one solid shape with no extra border. So I'm going to tell my image to access the method fill oval, the one that actually fills in all the color. And let's note what it wants. It wants the X value of where it's located, the Y value of where it's located, and the width and the height of this oval. I've already figured out where the coordinates I want this are, so I'm just going to fill it in myself here. I want, now in this case, it's constructed based on the width and the height, stretching out from where it is that we create the oval in the first place. So I need to tell the oval that it's going to be at the X value way over here at 500 near the edge, and it's going to be at the Y value of 0. And let's think about what this means, because some of these shapes are created in different ways. You might have to play around with your numbers a little bit to get them just right to develop a bit of an intuitive sense. We're creating the very edge of where the oval is going to start, and then we're telling it how far to stretch out to the right and how far to stretch down from there. That's what the width and the height are. So when I tell the width to be 100 and the height to be 100, I'm telling start here at 500, 0, stretch 100 this way, and then 100 this way, which should create that nice yellow oval for us in Greenfoot, just like that. Really cool. All right, let's jump down into something else here. Let's take a look next at perhaps filling in, let me think here. Our house. Our house is something slightly more advanced that, for now, if you don't quite understand what we're talking about in this example, that's all right. You can just follow along with the pattern that I use, and we'll start to get a better sense of these things called arrays a little bit later. I want to draw this house, but notice it's not a simple shape. I could make a rectangle and then a triangle to make it, but that would cause some funniness with the border being there potentially. It's actually a lot harder to create it with two composite shapes than just creating it once using draw a polygon. A polygon is a many-sided figure, as many sides as we want it to have. So it's easy to create a complex shape by telling it the information it needs for all of its different points. And the house here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 end points to all the lines that make it up. So I need to tell it 5 sets of coordinates. Now, to be able to tell it the sets of information, I have to send it basically a list. And to send these lists, we're going to use something called an array. Here's your first glimpse at arrays. And again, if this kind of goes over your head a little bit right now, that's okay. We're going to make sense of it more as we go through. An array is like a storage container for information. The first piece of information you put in is like the first box in a row. The next piece of information is in the second box, and so on, each box being filled by whatever you send to it. The one weird thing about Java arrays is that they start at 0 and go up. The first box is always labeled 0. A finicky detail that we won't worry too much about right now. But we can store as many objects as we want, stretched along the array, to fill in the kind of organized information that we need. The way that we determine or tell Greenfoot that there's an array is with these square brackets. Yes, another set of brackets, I know. But this should be the last one that we have to worry about. We have the squigglies for big blocks of information. We have the normal brackets for method information and sending information somewhere. And then we have the square ones for arrays. The first array must have the x values. The second array has the y values. And then finally, we need to tell how many points we have in our polygon to be able to make sure that it's consistent in what it understands. Just follow along for now. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell Greenfoot I'm making an array of numbers. That's how we tell it to do so. I'm going to call the first one x values. And then inside of this, I'm just going to define the different x points. And I'm going to do so with a squiggly bracket. And in this, I'm going to list the 5 x values that I need. Make sure we have the same order of corners. Corner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first x value at the first corner is 0. The next corner is also 0. The third corner, it's hard to tell when you see here, but from your own plans, you'll know for yourself. For me, it's 100. The fourth x over here is 200. And the final one is also 200 down here. Close off my squiggly line. That's it for that piece of information. Next, I need another array for the y value. Actually, let's call it values just because we have plural, just to be really consistent. And here, I'm going to toss in my y values. The first point, I have to do it in the same order of the data above, or we're going to get things going really wacky on us, is 400. The next value above it is 300. The next value at the top of the peak, 200. And then it repeats back 300, 400 for each of my different points. Finally, I need to be able to say how many points are in our polygon. So I'm just going to create a new variable called points, and I'm going to tell that this has 5 points. Now, what I'm able to do is I'm able to say, in my image, draw a polygon, and what am I going to send to this method? I'm going to send, my mouse just about died, oh no, the array of x points, the array of y points, and then the number of points. What's the name of my array? X values. What's the name of my y array? Y values. And what's the name of my number of points? Is points. You might be wondering why I'm using the variable names rather than just the number. There's a very good reason. It allows our programs to be much more generalized. And even though it might seem a little bit trickier now, in the long run, using the variable names rather than the numbers themselves really lends itself well to this. So let's take a peek at what that looks like. I have the outline of a house perfectly right there, but oh no, there's a problem. I forgot that I haven't selected a new color yet. So before I draw this image, I need to set the color. The outline of the house that I see in the other picture is black. So if I just set the color again here, the outline will now be in black. Now, the next thing that I want to do as well is I want to be able to fill the color of this polygon with that information. And here we're already going to see actually why this is really valuable. I'm going to copy and paste this information, and I'm going to say, instead of draw polygon, fill polygon. And I want it to fill the polygon in the same places as it drew it. Notice how this repeated information is really valuable. It saved us some writing and time. All right, here's the problem. We've now filled it with the same color as above. We want it to be gray inside. So, once again, we're going to set a new color to be gray. Let's see what happens. There we go. But what you might notice is that some of our black outline is now missing. How come? Well, if you think about painting in the real world, whatever you paint after something else goes on top. If we did the outline before the fill-in, then the fill-in is going to cover potentially some of the outline here. To fix that, I'm going to swap their places so that it first fills in the color and then it outlines it afterwards in black. Looks better. Awesome. This video is getting a little bit long, so I think I'm going to jump a little bit faster through some things here. I'm going to stop referring back to the documents. You can track along where in Greenfoot image each of these methods that are appearing are as I add in some of the other elements of this a little bit faster. I want to particularly focus on the birds of their unique color and also this car. But first, let's get the windows in here. The thing that I need to be able to see first is that the window is white. So I'm going to set the color to white for the windows. And then I am going to have to fill a rectangle, my image dot fill rect, at the locations on my coordinates that I want that window to be. And I know what the location is already from my own pre-design, so you're just going to have to trust that those numbers are correct, and we can see that it pops out right there in the right spots. Now, the next thing that I want to do is outline the windows in black. So I'm going to change the color to black. In the same area, instead of filling rect, I'm going to draw the rectangle. There, the outline of the window is now in black. Now, to get these cross beams on the window, oops, wrong spot there. Jump over there, please, thank you. I am going to sorry, I got distracted on the side here. I need to draw some lines to be able to make these two cross sections of the window itself. So to be able to do that, I am going to tell my image to draw a line at the coordinates that the line needs to be drawn down from. And I'm also going to tell it to draw another line stretching from the x and y value over here to the x and y value over here. And my project, it should be these numbers. That creates, if it will compile here, the cross line. Cool. I'm going to save the other window for you to look at the other code for, as well as the door, because it's going to be drawn just like a rectangle like we did the windows, just in a separate spot, filling in black. And I want to jump up to the birds up in the sky here. They have a pretty unique color to them, and we want to make sure we know how to create unique colors here as well. Now, if we jump over to paint, we have an edit colors option where we can choose from the color spectrum, sometimes we call it the color wheel, all sorts of different colors. Whatever I choose, I want you to notice down here, red, green, and blue, RGB, the values all change. These numbers correlate with how much of each color are present. Gray is made up of an equal balance of all three of these primary shades. And down over here, we can see that red is only red on both sides, and we have different mixes of colors in between. Feel free to play around with these different colors. There are also some notes in the PowerPoint today about this stuff to take a look at. In this case, we're going to try and match this kind of pinkish color. I'm just going to kind of go up here and say right around there, that seems fine. 238, 17, and 233 seem to be the colors I found there. If I look in the color class, I'll notice that I can construct my own color using the RGB numbers. I can send R, G, and B to the constructor to be able to create this class myself. So if I jump over into my code over here, I want to be able to create a new color. So I'm going to tell Greenfoot, I want a color. I'm going to call it hot pink. And what is it? I'm going to define it as a new color. And the constructor I'm accessing asks for the RGB information. So I go back over here, 238, 17, 233. 238, 17, 233. I'm constructing the color from that spectrum, and I should see that color appear in the shapes that I create for my birds in the sky. So now in my image, I'm going to set the color to this color I just created, hot pink. This time, I don't have to access the color class because I've created hot pink right here in my current class. So it already knows it exists and can access it directly. The hot pink is just an object now inside of the text here right now already. So with this, I can now add in the drawing for my birds. And the birds are basically just lines. I'm just going to create one for now. You can replicate as many of your own shapes as you want later. So for now, I'm going to say my image, I'm drawing a line where the birds are in the sky. The first coordinate, 110, 20, 130, 30, is going to be one wing of the bird in the sky. Notice the color is a beautiful hot pink. And the other line is going to be 130, 30, 150, and 20. See if I typed in the right one. Nice. Now I got a bird in the sky. Awesome. Last thing for us to cover. I know there's been a lot. Stay with me for one more thing. We want to add this car in. This car is actually, I just need to pull up my document here. I gotta jump over into my Greenfoot file. It's actually an image file that I have on my hard drive. If I open up my drawing file, and of course I put it in the wrong spot on my computer, so this is going to cause me some trouble to show you here. For now, I'm just going to show you where it should be. In my test project, if I had been more prepared for this, I would have had this image in my actual image folder. I actually need to go and grab it to be able to do this right. So while I type it in, I'm going to search for it on the other side here. This image that I need to find is going to have a name that we will be able to reference through our Greenfoot image constructor, creating an image from a file name, a string file name that we see right there. So once we can determine where the file is on the computer, then we'll be able to tell it where to access it. There we go, I found it right here. So under my images for this test project, I have my file name car, and it's a PNG file. So using that information, what I can tell Greenfoot using this constructor is that I would like to create a new object in here called the car. And I'm going to add it into my world. So where do I go to kind of figure out where I add this thing in? Well, under my Greenfoot image, I'm able to add an image from an image file from the file name. So I'm going to tell Greenfoot to create a new Greenfoot image. And it's a car. Let's just call it pic of car, a picture of a car. And what is it? It's a new Greenfoot image. And now I have to use the constructor I've chosen. Which Greenfoot image constructor? The one where I put in the file name. A string is always surrounded in quotation marks to say that it's text. And let's remind ourselves of the name one more time. It's car.png, lowercase .png. All right, so now Greenfoot's creating a new Greenfoot image called pic of car, created by that file. And now in my image, I'm going to access a new method that we haven't seen for a little while. Let me scroll down and spot it. It's escaping me right now. Oh, right at the top, I just went right over it. Draws the given image onto this image. I'm adding one Greenfoot image into this one. I'm kind of merging them together. And then I'm going to tell it where I want to add it into my image here. So this image, I'm going to draw into my other image. A little bit meta there. I'm going to draw which image? My Greenfoot image I've defined up here. Pic of car. And then I want to tell it where to add this pick of car. And in my project, it's at this location. You'll have to play around with where you want to add your own images, and I do want you to add your own images in your own projects. Here's the coordinates for mine. If I type this in all correctly, we should see, oh, there's an error that I found. Looks like I might have put the file in the wrong folder. That's okay, happens. Got some weird stuff going on in the background here. Let's take a look at what we did here. In my project folder, let me pull it up here. Under my project that I'm currently working on here, test project, unit 1, hello world. I have too many files on my USB stick right now. That's my current problem going on right now. Under Greenfoot, oh my gosh, where did it go? I might just have to leave you to see this for yourself, so don't let this video drag on for too long. Scenarios, drawing new, images. That's why I copied and pasted into the wrong spot. All the little nuances of coding. I hadn't actually added in this to the project I'm working in. Some of you guys have had the same issue, creating too many copies of projects and putting things in the wrong spot. Happens to me too, apparently. Now when I go over like this, it actually finds the file because it exists where I told it did. And we see the car appearing in our world. So you see this process takes a little bit of time. And one of the reasons that we do this project is because it takes a while. It takes a while to put in all this code. And next week, when we work on part 2 of this project, we are going to think about adding in our own custom methods to make doing all this functionality happen much more quickly. So for now, we're going to do it the long way, just to get used to typing in method references, naming things, and going through all this type of stuff. And then next week, we're going to learn how programmers make their lives easier by creating tools that will do a lot of this drawing and work for them. So that in the future, we can save ourselves a lot of time. Thanks for your patience in the video. If any sections of this didn't make too much sense, either hit rewind or ask me for some help in class or by email. Otherwise, good luck in your drawings. Make sure that you create your own custom image. Make sure that there's bolds and italic words. Make sure that there's different colors and shapes involved. Make sure that you import images, all those good things. Be creative, have some fun, and let me know if you need a hand.